Hey everyone, how y'all doing? My name is Mateo and I am from Maschine Masters. Today I'm going to talk to you about the difference between peak versus RMS metering and why this is important to you as a producer. Most of the time I receive things from hip hop artists for mixtapes and EPs and things like that. And a lot of the times these instrumentals are really loud, overcompressed, and even distorted. I guess a lot of producers just want their music to stand out more, and a way to do that is to overcompress everything so it's perceivably louder. But this causes a lot of issues when it comes to the recording and mixing process because it's harder for vocals to sit nicely in an instrumental that is overcompressed or having a track that's distorted, because I mean, nobody wants to have a track that's distorted, right? In this track, there is clear distortion, and a good sign for that is high tops. That's right, I said it, high tops. High tops are great, but when it comes to waveforms, not so much. So if we look at the instrumental over here, I'm in the chorus over here. I'm going to zoom in to a section of the waveform, and we can see that there is a flat straight line over here. I like to call that a high top. That means that the signal had nowhere else to go in the digital domain because this was clearly hitting 0 decibels. And that is distortion. So that is a bad sign. Now, I'm going to show you with our meters here what that sounds like. And no need for concern because I have the level of the instrumental pretty low right now. Cool. Even at low levels, you can already hear that the bass and the kick is heavily distorted and it sounds muffled. So I'm going to bring up the instrumental to 0. This is how I receive the file. And some of you might be like, whoa. And I'm going to remove the limiter. So please turn down your headphones or monitors, whatever you're using to listen to this. And I'm going to play the audio for you. So I have the limiter off and I have the instrumental set at 0. It is going to be loud, but pay attention to the meters over here. So as you can see, this track actually peaked at 0 and the RMS was around -3 decibels. It didn't show that it was actually over 0, so clearly the producer of this track was using a brick wall limiter, but you could still hear, even though it wasn't exceeding 0, you can clearly hear that it was distorted, even at low levels. And the reason for that is because there's a big misconception out there. People believe that distortion only happens when you exceed 0. Well, you're wrong. Distortion can still happen even in the digital domain below 0. Okay, so this is a track that I'm currently producing, and I'm going to show you how I use peak and RMS meters in here. Now, first, before I get into this, let me explain exactly what peak and RMS is. So these are two forms of measuring loudness. Peak is a very accurate representation of your audio. It picks up things that our human ears do not hear, which is why it's noticeably higher up on the meter, the loudness, than what we would actually perceive. And the reason for this is because it picks up every subtle nuance, every fast transient, and these are things that our ears miss. So peak meters are usually really good for calibrating hardware and software and instruments and things like that. Also for making sure that you don't exceed 0. So it's good to see what the peak transients are in your session. Now, RMS is more like the human ear. It's a better representation of perceived loudness. And RMS is usually referred to as the average program. So it's typically the average loudness of your sound that's going on. So RMS is usually what you want to use to determine what the perceived loudness of your track is. So let's look at this session. I'm going to go from the bridge or the break going into the chorus. And you're going to hear that it slowly builds up. And it's going to start off with more percussive elements and then everything else comes in.
the stars, going straight to my eye.
So as you can see, the peak meter, which was the thin one, was much higher on the meter than the RMS, which is the thicker one over here. The RMS was hovering below minus 12 decibels, whereas the peak meter was between minus 6 and minus 3 decibels. There's a huge difference between the two, and like I said, it's because the peak meter picks up every nuance, whereas the RMS is more of an average. So when you get tracks and you're looking at your RMS meter and your RMS is all the way up here, you know that they would have had to have crushed the song to get the RMS meter to register that high. And I'm going to show you how high they would have to do that. So I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to bypass my limiter that I have on my master. I'm going to pull up the master fader, and we're going to go into the chorus, and I'm going to bring up the master fader, and it's going to show you how loud the song gets. So please turn down your headphones, turn down your monitors. This will get loud. And just pay attention to see how quickly the peak meter exceeds 0.
You know that it's my aim. You got the music, not the fame. Super flow, super flow, super flow. Yeah, it's lyrical, yeah.
So it didn't take that much to get it over 0. And the other thing is, by the time my peak meter went over 0, my RMS was still just above minus 12. And it took me to go all the way to plus 12 decibels to even get the RMS to just over minus 6 decibels. And the other instrumental that I had was around minus 3 decibels. That's crazy. So, I mean, you would have to push that track really loud. And at that point, you'd be running into a lot of issues like distortion, messing up the balance of the frequencies, and it just makes it very difficult for vocals to sit in your track. All right, everyone, thank you very much for checking out this tutorial. I really hope this helped to demystify peak and RMS metering and that it now becomes a part of your workflow. If any of you have any questions about anything we covered today, please leave it in the comment section below. Also, if you have any suggestions of what we should cover in the future, also leave that in the comment section below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Maschine Masters, and I hope to bring you another video soon. Have a great day. Cheers.